Welcome to Lost and Found, a podcast about Lost for new viewers and series veterans. I have seen the show too many times. My wife has never seen the show. I can't remember the intro from week to week. But the important thing is that this is a rewatch show and a first watch show. So the first half of the show.
So the first watch, like the breakfast
The breakfast
restaurant?
chain, yeah. This is a show about the breakfast chain first watch. Or brunch, rather. This has more twists and turns than an episode of Lost called Exodus, parts 1, 2, and 3.
Oh my goodness.
This week, we watched the series finale of season 1 of Lost.
Oh my god, people!
Exodus, parts 1, 2, and 3.
Dude.
It was crazy.
We watched this last night. Mm-hmm. And I legitimately didn't know what was happening. Not in my life.
You were freaking out.
Legitimately.
It was amazing. I took a video of you surreptitiously while you were watching the show, and you were just curled up in a ball with your hands over your mouth, your eyes wide, like, what is going on? It was crazy.
What was going on?
What was going on?
Lots of things that I don't understand.
So much to talk about. I regret to inform you that we have to read the plot synopsis from...
No.
Here's everything you need to know about Lost in 8 minutes, 15 seconds.
You know what? I think their synopsis should be a sentence.
Me too.
Which it should be, watch the show.
That's great. I love that. Plot synopsis, watch the show.
Yeah.
This episode's crazy. Where do you even want to start with this?
Oh my goodness.
I kind of want to run through the revelations that we had. That we had or
Come
got.
on our show, gosh.
Gosh, Chad. Because we got what? We saw the monster.
Okay.
The raft was built and they left the island.
We understood, or we got to see Black Rock.
We saw the Black Rock. Number 4, I'm going to say, you didn't realize I was counting, but I am. Number 4, confirmation that there are others besides Ethan on this island.
Right. Let's see. The hatch is open.
The hatch is open.
I mean, we don't know what it is, but they
we don't know what's
obviously
in
do.
It. Yeah. Although, can I say something?
I don't know. No, I don't know if I want you to say anything.
Your initial thing you said at the end of the episode, you said, so what? The thing that was in the hatch is just a broken ladder? And I was like, no, we just can't see it yet.
I said, what? So, I don't think I said all the hatch had was a broken ladder.
It was what you said, but okay. What do you want the listeners to think you said?
That I was upset that we didn't get to see what was inside.
For sure. Can you imagine having to wait like a year before the next season came out?
And then that's how they, that's
or
how
however long it was.
Yes, that's how they leave you, is that obviously they see what's in there and they're completely stunned, but you don't get to see anything. It's like the revelation of the monster. Like, for an entire season, they can see the monster, but we can't. And then we see the monster for 2 seconds.
You are getting so heated. You did not even think that we would see the monster at all.
No!
You should be grateful with what you have. You're so, upset. We saw, I would say, a lot of the monster. What did you want to see, a flashback involving the monster's backstory?
I felt like everybody else got one. Why didn't he?
Did you want Jack to whip out a microphone and interview the monster?
Yeah.
Tell us your story.
Why are you terrorizing us?
Why are you so sad? Okay, so we don't learn a lot about the monster, but you see it. You were surprised by its form.
Yeah, because the way it sounds like it's some mechanical, robotic, weird thing, massive thing. And it's virtually a cloud of smoke.
Yeah. Now we can refer to it as the smoke monster.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah. That's generally what it's called.
Oh, that's not very clever.
No, it's not. Smokey. Some people call it Smokey.
The bear?
Now it's not a bear. So that wouldn't make a ton of sense. Well, and the bear. Smokey and the Bears. The Family Bears?
Yeah.
Wait, no, what is that movie? The Country Bears.
The Country Bears.
Yeah.
Which is I think a spoof of the Berenstain Bears.
Nope.
No? Jacob Right.
That is amazing. No, the Country Bears is like an attraction at Disney World. It's like a bunch of animatronic bears. So they just made a movie based off of the ride like Pirates of the Caribbean. But I love the idea that it's a parody of the Berenstain Bears. I hear your face. So, do you have... I mean, do we want to hop in...
Into What's in the Hatch, Baby?
What's in the hatch, baby?
I don't know.
Now, obviously we don't know what's in the hatch, other than a ladder that's broken. But...
Yeah.
What...
Is it,
the monster does
like,
sound...
Is it like,
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I mean, it only makes sense to talk about what's in the hatch in the segment, What's in the Hatch, baby?
I was just gonna say, is it like a carnivorous monster?
In the hatch?
Is it Carnivorous Carnival?
Well, we've kept up our streak of mentioning unfortunate events every episode.
Yeah.
So what, you think there's another monster in the hatch, or the same monster?
I think that there's a different monster.
There's a different monster inside the hatch.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm kind of just pulling that out my butt.
I was about to say...
I haven't really given that much thought
A,
at all.
put your pants back on. B, I was interested. I mean, we have really nothing to go off of.
I can't even begin to theorize what's in the hatch, baby.
Now, do you have any theories as to why the monster? Because you noted that it still makes that sound, that crazy, somewhat like electrical sound.
Yeah, mechanical, yeah.
Is there anything to that, or is it just like, hey, this sounds cool, let's use this for the monster?
Well, if they can see the monster, to me, if you couldn't see the monster, that noise is frightening. But they can see
it signifies you that the monster's coming.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But they can see the monster, so I feel like the sound and then what it turns out to be, they don't
seem to match up.
Coincide. Yeah, it's really weird. I don't get it.
Yeah. Do you think there's an explanation, or do you think it's just like, this was a cool sound that we made and we thought it'd be cool?
I'd like to think that there's an explanation.
Okay.
But I feel like you have mentioned before that there's parts of Lost that never got, they were loose ends that never got tied.
I've never said this.
Yes, you have.
I would never in a million years denigrate the good name of Lost.
Okay.
The television show on ABC.
Maybe you were just repeating what you heard.
I have said that people say that. Anyway, I'm not going to give anything away.
I don't think there ends up being an explanation.
Here's while we're in the What's in the Hatch, baby.
Yes.
Segment.
Yeah.
The folks on the boat who want to take the boy, as they say, Walt.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? I mean...
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? I mean, are they...
How did they get their rickety fishing boat way out there?
Do you think they're from the island?
I mean, when Rousseau said that they were looking for the boy...
That's right, Rousseau seemed to know something about this.
That she was hearing whispers from the others about they wanted the boy. She assumed that they wanted Claire's baby.
Right.
Who we find out, his name is Aaron.
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 Yeah, good name.
Very good name.
Biblical.
Definitely.
In following with themes from the show.
Yes. It turns out that they don't want...
Yeah, they don't want
Claire's
the baby. And I was annoyed at how immediately you guessed that. Because you immediately said, oh, they want Walt. And I was like, how would you guess that so quickly?
I'm a smart person with a working brain.
You are. Well, listen, when I first watched it, I don't think I saw it coming.
What does that tell you?
I don't know. I think what I thought was going to, when you first see the fishing boat people, you're like, there's no way that this is all going to work out. So I was like, these are just going to be crazy people that end up trying to kill him or something. But I did not, and I was so shocked when they said, we're going to need to take the boy.
I guess maybe I have an advantage just because the series has come and gone on TV, and maybe subconsciously I just recognize that to be the plot twist.
Why would you take that credit away from yourself? I would have said, I'm a genius, and I saw it coming a mile away.
And if I would have said that, you would have been like, oh.
No, I would have said, my wife is amazing. I'm so glad I married her. I'll say that anyway.
I was going to say, if I don't say that, what are you going to say?
I don't know.
I don't think that subconsciously I was spoiled by the trade that Rousseau was going to make with the baby for her own child. And
No,
I
think you just totally saw through what twist the show was throwing at you. Yeah.
I'm too smart for this show.
You're too smart for this stupid, idiotic show.
Except for the smoke monster and What's in That Baby.
What's in That Baby? Now, we also saw the Black Rock, which turns out to be an old wooden ship.
Yeah, like from the 1800s, like an old pirate ship.
Earlier even.
Yeah.
I would say if it's like a pirate ship, we're talking like 1600s. Yeah, so it's a slave ship. You mentioned something that was interesting. Which is that... Yeah, go ahead.
That it doesn't even look like the crew got off the boat.
Yeah.
Because there's so many skeletal remains on there.
Yeah. So, do you have... And it's like in the middle of the island.
Right.
Now, old Arzt tries to give an explanation as he's like, it's just a few miles inland. It was a tsunami or monsoon. Do you have any thought? Do you think that old Arzt is telling the... Should we call him old Arzt?
We should call it somebody who's scientific might think, oh, well, it's just from natural events. But I think it's too far inland. Even though he said it's just a couple miles in, it could have been carried in by
a couple miles is a long way.
It is. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that it got carried onto the island by like a tsunami or something like that. Plus, if it got carried onto the island by a tsunami, wouldn't it be completely like broken to pieces?
It's pretty decently intact. Yeah. Interesting.
So what if the island was like under the water in the 16 or 1700s, you know?
Under the sea. Wait a minute. What if the island was underwater?
So, you know how some islands through like erosion and like natural currents and stuff like that. There's part of an island can be underwater, and through time levels lower or rise. Parts of the island could surface.
So you think maybe this ship sunk?
I think they may have, like, run aground or something like that on part of the island.
And the water level has receded over the years. That is a cool theory. I'm into this.
Yeah.
You are a thinking person, and it makes it fun to watch the show with you. I'm so glad that I don't even think we would continue doing the show if you're like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I would have married you if you were like that.
Yeah, I don't think you would have either. I wouldn't have married you if you were like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's an annoying voice, too.
It really is.
I don't know. I think that's it for, like, mysteries and things. I want to jump to the episode itself. There's so much good stuff. I mean, we probably can't cover it all.
No, there's so much in these episodes you can't.
One thing that I just felt overall, this was the first season of the show. I don't think, probably until pretty late in the game, that they knew that they were going to get a second season.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I know that they said it in interviews, and if you're new to the show, first half of the show is feelings, not facts, so I'll have the truth pulled up in the second half of the show when I do spoilers, but I think within, like, 6 to 12 episodes, they knew they were going to get a second season, but I think they probably planned out the arc of it. What I felt was, aside from the cliffhanger ending, this felt like they were really setting up for it to be a potential series finale, too, like in case the show didn't. Because
for sure.
The way they brought back everything with the flashbacks, they really brought together character arc it's having throughout the season.
Yes.
They put a bullet point on it.
Definitely.
Or a period. Is there a difference between bullet points and periods? You're a woman.
Yes, bullet points.
Now, is there a difference between the punctuation periods and what happens to you on a monthly basis?
Actually, no. Because a period that I experience is an end of one cycle and beginning of another. Do
you think that is what a period does?
Yeah.
Do you think that the first period, like, punctuation thing ever was like a woman bled onto?
Oh my god, what is happening to
and
this
they're like, this little splotch, this little dot is actually really convenient because it makes me want to stop the sentence. We should call it a period.
This this drop of blood makes me want to stop writing this sentence right here. The end.
I think it makes sense.
I think the first writer of the novel had his wife.
Jesus. I don't even know. Okay, what were we even talking about? Ooh, the fact that they're bringing everything full circle.
Yes.
Like, every character arc, they, like, punctuated it.
Yeah,
at the end. And...
yeah, when they're on the plane.
Yes.
Like, that whole montage of them kind of, like, acknowledging each other in some way, shape, or form was definitely, like, a finale. It had a finale feel to it.
So emotional. Things like Michael and Jin's friendship was highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
Sun and Jin's relationship, which that was emotional. Clearly there was a bit of a series finale vibe.
Mm-hmm.
All these flashbacks, in fact, really, unlike everything else, they did not serve to show us how the characters got to this point. They seem to serve to show us how far we've come.
Yeah, agreed.
Reminding us, like, hey, remember how this is how they were at the beginning of the season? Now they're on a boat or running away from a monster or something.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It was really eloquent like that.
You know, I found that very poetic and inspiring.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I should start a podcast. I'm going to say most intriguing flashback.
Mm-hmm.
Was Jack and Ana Lucia, this person.
Yes! I even asked you.
Let's open back up what's in the hatch, baby.
I am so confused by why that was even part of the flashbacks for Jack. I said that to you last night when we were. I'm like,
yeah.
What's the importance of saying? I truly believe, in my heart of hearts, that the people who were in the tail of the plane survived. Because why else would you have a flashback of Jack and Ana... what is her name?
Ana Lucia.
Ana Lucia. Unless she makes an appearance somehow. If the people in the tail of the plane died, then what was the relevance or the significance of that flashback?
I will say, I forgot. I think narratively what it does serve is to let the audience know that Jack is not married anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's like, you married?
Are you married? Yeah.
And he says, not anymore. Because I think that the previous flashback we had with him did sort of raise a question like, wait a minute, is he still married? Does he have a wife back home?
And he's flirting with Kate.
And he's off with this outlaw bimbo?
Mm-hmm.
This 2-bit floozy?
Which kind
and
of...
one horse town?
There's one horse?
One horse on this island?
Oh my god. I mean, I guess that would make sense because even Sawyer, when he's reading everybody's little notes, goes like, oh, and Judy or whoever has a kids and a husband back home, but she's certainly close and snuggly with Scott.
And even called back the Scott Steve thing,
yeah.
which I loved.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was referenced in this episode.
Yes, continuity.
I think the show is really good at that.
Mm-hmm. In way of theorizing, I really do think that the people who were in the tail of the plane survived somehow.
This is hinting at Tail Section Go. Which will be the spin-off show.
Which is another Tom Cruise movie.
Tail Section Go?
Yeah.
I like that name of a movie. We saw a flashback of a gentleman named James Ford.
Ah, yes, we did.
The artist formerly known as Sawyer.
Yep.
Was it cool to learn James's name to you?
I mean, it was cool.
You don't really care that much.
I guess because my focus is understanding, which is probably not a good thing. It will cause me to rewatch this show.
Ooh.
But my focus is mostly trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, when these little details that have significance themselves come up, I don't have much of a reaction to them because I'm so distracted by all these other major pieces being put into play.
There are smoke monsters and, like, kidnappings of babies and all sorts of things and explosions happening. So a detail like that, I can see why it wouldn't stick out in your mind. It's, like, the most fascinating thing to happen in this finale. But we also learn why Sawyer is in Australia, because he's deported.
Yeah.
I'm going to say favorite moment of this episode for me is probably Sawyer actually tells Jack about his conversation with Christian.
Part.
Holy cow.
Jack's reaction.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Can anybody cry like Matthew Fox? The answer is no.
I was going to say yes.
Oh, who?
Me.
Listen, everybody cries. This was the most emotional moment of the episode.
It really was.
I legitimately, and I'm a bad Lost fan, I couldn't remember if Sawyer actually ended up at any point telling Jack this story. And I thought that if it did happen, it was... I thought that it would be later in the show.
You said that a lot when we were watching this finale.
I distinctly thought that the smoke monster was revealed in season 2.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me to see your reaction as to how much is revealed in this season finale.
This is the symptom of binge watching.
Yeah.
And I think maybe doing this podcast will help solidify what things happen when. Mm-hmm. Because, like we've talked about, we're both big Office fans.
Yeah.
I watched that show as it was airing. And so, as it was airing, and I...
Charlie, she took Aaron.
I love it. I think by the end of this show, the end of our podcast, we should be able to do a decent Australian accent.
I think so.
Right?
I would hope so.
It's less than terrible now.
Claire.
Or less than terrible now.
Claire, I found heroin. And I'm gonna eat it. I don't know how you take that.
I now feel comforted that I know for sure that you have never done heroin and have never even really gotten close. I mean, I haven't either, but I don't think you eat it. I think notoriously it's not chewed. Like a cookie. Anyway, U.S. Marshal Edward Mars, a.k.a. Dog, came back.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Old Doggy Dog came back.
I know
Dog the Bounty Hunter.
I know we just saw this, but so much happened that we saw that I can't even remember some of the stuff that happened.
There's a ton that happened. In typical Kate fashion, I think this was maybe the weakest flashback. Mm-hmm. And it was entertaining, but I've never liked this. This flashback is irritating to me, because it seemed clear that the writers were like, wait a minute, we gotta clear up why there's 5 guns in that suitcase. What a huge loose end we have to tie up. And so they do this cutesy thing where he intentionally provokes Kate into attacking him, where she kind of momentarily tries to pin him down and fails, and he goes, that's why I need 5 guns. And to me...
still doesn't make any sort of sense, and it's not relevant.
It was trying to be cutesy, but if she had done something like snapped one of the security guards' necks or something... yeah. And he had to, shoot her with 4 guns, mm-hmm. and she was still alive, and then the 5th one...
He's just like, bam, 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 grabs another dude, bam, 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 grabs another one, bam, 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 and she's still not dead. Yeah,
I honestly think that if he had shot her with 4 guns and she was still alive, and then on the 5th one, she was like, ow, he'd be like, that's why.
To me, I just see this, ridiculous Matrix scene in my head where he's like,
this is great for me. I don't know if it'll translate well to audio.
No,
I love it. My note was, I still don't think he needed 5 guns.
He doesn't.
If he can't kill her with 1.
This is why I think he's dirty.
Okay.
You
think he had ulterior motives?
Yes, this is why I think he's a dirty cop.
Okay, I like this.
Because of how many guns, and when a good, honest cop is asking why he needs 5 guns, he's then gonna go on this tangent monologue of why he needs, to provoke Kate, and then goes, that's why. Even though she's probably 120 pounds soaking wet.
She tried and failed to attack me when I provoked her for 20 minutes. That's why I needed 5 guns.
So to me, it just implants a suspicion of him, not Kate.
Yeah, not great. I like your theory that there was some other motive for him bringing the guns, mm-hmm. and that he's just a dirty dog. I guess I should have mentioned this earlier. This is the first episode where we have multiple character flashbacks, aside from the pilot, in which we see, Jack, Kate, and Charlie in the pilot.
I thought you meant like an actual pilot that flies a plane. And I was like, when did we see this flashback?
That guy's flashback definitively did not get seen.
No.
He got eaten almost immediately.
He sure did. By the smoke monster. How that even happens, I don't even know, because Smoke has no ability to, like, grab anything.
But it does. I mean, it wrapped around Locke's leg and dragged him through the jungle in this episode. So it has some kind of, like, physicality to it. It has good stage presence and physicality.
Here's Miss Smoke Monster!
And one interesting thing that happened is when they're attacked by this smoke monster, Locke looks up. Now, when he first saw him, he had this, like, glow of revelation and, like, light on his face. When he saw it this time,
he was scared.
He did not like what he saw with his eyes.
He was scared.
He was scared, for sure. Which, that was very interesting.
Yeah, that's why, I'm confused as to where Locke and the island's relation.
Jack kind of calls him out on this. He's like, I want to understand why you thought it was a good idea to go down into that hole with that thing.
And he said, my faith was being tested.
Yes.
But I don't think his faith was being tested in that moment. I think the monster just wanted to kill him.
I tend to agree with you. In that moment, it seems like Locke is in denial.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't want to say for sure, but I agree with you in this moment. Mm-hmm. But this leads us into, I said that my favorite moment was Jack and Sawyer. It probably is. Tied with it is, well, nah, screw the baby.
Well, if you screw me, you might get a baby.
What? Does this tie back to periods?
It sure does.
The moment with Jack and Locke, their man of science conversation.
Which, again, is very religious and biblical. Because science and religion will always conflict with each other.
Right. Mm-hmm. But what was so interesting is, throughout the season, there has been a simmering tension with Locke and Jack. I mean, and it's boiled to a head a couple times.
Especially since Boone died.
Right. Mm-hmm. But they're usually able to get to common ground, which they were in this episode too. I mean, they worked together on the dynamite thing.
He said to Kate, he said, I think we're going to have a Locke
He said, if this works, and we make it through this night, we're going to have a Locke problem.
And he needed to know if Kate had his back. And she said, I got your back.
He recognizes, I think, that Locke's seemingly blind faith is dangerous.
And here we have, like, another division, because Saeed trusts Locke, because he says, it's not that that we're friends. I think Locke is the only way that we'll be able to survive this island.
I love when we're on the same page and in sync, and I feel like we're at our wedding day all over again when we talk about Lost like this. No, I was about to say the same exact thing, and Charlie too said to Jack very early on in the show, if there's one person I would trust to save us all, it'd be John Locke. So Jack knows that people trust Locke implicitly. Yeah. He knows that Locke is a threat to him as a leader, whether he wants to admit that or not. But he also knows that Locke is unstable. I mean...
Yeah, because...
But we know... I'm sorry to cut you off. Let me just finish this thought.
Yeah.
Jack feels this way strongly because he does not believe in the spiritual side of this island, even though Locke says there's no way you don't see it. And we as the audience can clearly see it too.
Yes.
That there's something special about this island. So it's not totally clear if Locke is wrong, but it is not the pragmatic approach to survival that Jack has.
Right.
So that was really a spice between those two.
It really was.
Meanwhile, Hurley sees the numbers on the side of the hatch, once again bringing back everything we've seen in the show so far.
And he is like, no, don't do it. Those are bad numbers.
Yeah.
And Locke,
Yeah.
only solidifying to audience members and Jack in this moment, because this is after he said it, continues to light the dynamite.
Yeah, he doesn't give a crap about it.
No! And in fact, Hurley chasing after him only increases his anticipation and excitement to light the dynamite to blow open the hatch.
Yeah.
And nothing good comes from this hatch. Because, again, when John Locke grabbed onto Walt was like, don't open that, don't open it, and got really freaked out.
And Walt wanted off the island, which he had never wanted to do before.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's Hurley, who sees those numbers, and he's trying to stop Locke, so I just don't think anything good happens from this.
What's so brilliant about this moment between Jack and Locke, which is really critical to the show going forward. I don't think it's a huge spoiler to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it clearly teases it as an important thing. Is that you can interpret their journey to that point either way.
Mm-hmm.
And from a fan point of view, there are fans, I believe, you're a new watcher of the show. I think there's probably a part of you that thinks this is all going to have some sci-fi explanation to it. There's going to be like a logical, kind of like pragmatic answer to everything. And there's a part of you thinking this might all be a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
With certain aspects of it, yeah.
Right. And that requires a certain amount of faith for the viewer, right? On a meta level.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people... There's a division. Are you saying
that I'm like John Locke and Jack Shepherd?
I think that you are like John Locke and Jack Shepherd, ma'am. I think there's a little bit of them in all of us, if you know what I mean.
No, explain.
Explain when you're older. I think there's a certain meta level to that.
You're right. I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're right. And
it's not a very obvious moment, like Hurley saying, I want some friggin' answers. This is, like, just a really smart way for the show to be able to acknowledge to the viewers, we know that you're unsure as to whether or not this is all science or all spiritual.
Right.
Or ethereal or whatever. That's the conflict at the center of the show.
Yeah.
It's really, Oh, it's good.
It is very good.
It's good stuff. Juicy stuff. I can't imagine season 2 will explore that any further. I don't think so.
Oh, you don't?
Nah, I don't think so.
Interesting.
Nah. Another full circle thing was Jin giving Mike the watch.
I loved that moment.
I don't know if you could hear my wife from across the room, but she said that she loved that moment. Yeah. And that tied into Jin and Sun's flashback, which we didn't talk about. But that was another one that kind of brought us back to their dynamic at the very beginning of the show, which was, I think, just a great reflection on how far we've come, because we just thought that their relationship was so simple. We have a domineering husband and a conflicted, submissive wife who feels trapped in a marriage.
Which, speaking of Jin and Sun's, or Jin's flashback, even more, when they're in the airport and these two Americans are observing their interaction.
That was awful to watch.
And I just was sitting there and I was like, oh my god, I hope I don't do that kind of thing.
Didn't it make you stop for a second and think, am I doing that in real life? I like to think that we are not.
Oh, well, I would hope not, because I think we were raised better than that.
Yeah.
But
it was a relatable thing to see.
Because I think most Americans look at that kind of, those kinds of cultures, you know, the submissive, dominated wife, and like,
kind of another comment on the show itself. Like, clearly commenting, like, we know that American audiences had the perception of what this was going to be, and we played off of that and presented you with a really nuanced, interesting relationship that's so emotionally, like, complex.
And I really, really love Jin and Sun's departure.
Oh, man.
Even though it's so emotional.
That's a tearjerker.
I cried.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, maybe I wouldn't have cried if, like, I saw this and I was younger and I wasn't married, but
it is so different now, isn't it?
Now that we're married, I'm trying to put myself in Sun's shoes. I don't think I would have been able to let you go off that island.
Oh, man. I totally agree. Anytime there's any movie like where like a spouse dies or they have to part, it is so much more emotionally involving now.
Yeah, definitely. So that, even though it was emotional, I really like that because I think now that we know what happens and they don't get off the island raft, makes their way back onto the island. So I'm hoping that it's like a new beginning for Jin and Sun.
You don't think we've seen the last of them together?
Because I think, was it Jack that said, or somebody said, I can't remember who, this island is their new beginning.
Yeah, like early on in the show.
I think that it took a while, but we see now Jin and Sun's new beginning.
Yeah. I think, the only other flashbacks we saw... Well, there's a lot more, actually. I mean, we saw Charlie. Which, boy, that was tough to see.
That was really tough to see, yeah.
And, of course, we've seen him kick his drug habit, but it's revealed... Actually, it might have been at the end of the previous episode, but he takes one of the Virgin Mary statues.
And I think that this is the island challenging his faith. Like, quite honestly, what are the chances that the drug smugglers, that they're smuggling heroin, who Charlie ends up now on that same island trying to kick that drug?
Yeah, so his conflict is not over, which it wouldn't be realistic if it was. I mean, if you struggle with an addiction, there's relapses and things like that. But there's that. We see Hurley's obviously is fun and funny, and you get this really great ukulele version of Michael James, which was so fantastic. And of course, there's just a tinge of dramatic irony there's a ton of it because he's trying to race to get to this flight that we know gets him crashed in the island.
And every the flight attendant who's booking his ticket is essentially like, sir, I don't think you're meant to be on this flight.
Yeah. He wakes up, his alarm clock is broken, the power's out in his hotel.
Well, in his room.
In his room. He gets a flat on the way to the airport.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything to you?
A flat on the way to the airport?
The fact that everything was going wrong and trying to seemingly prevent him from going to the island.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that the numbers want to... I don't know how I want to say it.
The numbers don't want to be understood? Is that what you're going to say? That's interesting.
They don't want their power to be revealed, and I think with Hurley being on the island, their power is going to be revealed.
It feels like the opposite of Claire's first flashback, right? Where she is trying to do everything in her power to give away this baby, and it's almost like the universe is stopping her. Yeah, right down to the pens running out of ink. In this case, it's almost as if the universe is trying to tell Hurley not to get to the island.
Which is interesting that his interpretation is, if I wasn't on that flight, you guys wouldn't be here, because I'm bad luck.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's Sayid getting detained. We see Boone and Shannon. Yeah. Which, hey, little cameo from Beyond the Grave. Old Boo-hoon.
Boo! No!
But during that montage at the very end, when he produces Shannon's inhaler, that's a good moment.
That is a good moment.
You can't hate that.
It's a good brother-sister moment.
Totally, yeah. Do you feel like their relationship is a little better in hindsight? When you see like a flash, when you see that montage set to that beautiful music, do you think, I do kind of like Boone and Shannon? Or are you still like, nope, boo, hiss? Okay, you're shaking your head.
I don't think that... I don't dislike them as much as I did when I see that.
But it's not like your favorite bros.
Right. Yeah. It's not my favorite bros.
Are they your favorite bros?
No.
Oh. Lastly, I believe we're probably forgetting something, but Michael and Walt. How much their relationship has changed.
Yeah, because you see the flashback of when they're in Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
And Walt essentially storms out of their hotel room with Vincent.
Oh, man.
And I'm sorry, Michael goes chasing after him, and they're causing in the
screaming
hallway
at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That somebody walks out and they're like, "Is everything okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm his father." And in the
Walt's
airport,
like, he's not my dad.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the airport, Michael's talking to his mom, and he's trying to convince her to take Walt.
Yeah.
Because he said that it wasn't supposed to be like this. I'm not supposed to be his father.
And Walt, of course, overhears it.
Yeah.
This flashback delved into television's complete inability to portray video games.
Yeah,
this was
pretty hilarious.
Better than... I've been rewatching some House recently. I've been rewatching shows from 2004, and...
Hey, House is good.
It's a fantastic show.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an episode where...
Until it wasn't.
Yeah, until this one scene where House is playing his Game Boy Advance. And he's playing Metroid, which is a, exploration-based game.
Okay.
But he's playing it as if it's, Galaga. And and they show him, one of your powers in the game is that you can roll up into a little ball. And they show him playing the game, and they cut to the screen, and he rolls up in a ball and goes, "Oh, I died. I can't beat this game. Here, you want to try?" And pass it to a patient. I'm like, what is this? Did somebody, in the crew just have a Game Boy? And he's like, "Here, just pretend to play this. You don't have to know what it is."
They're expecting people like me
to not know what
that is. Yeah.
But they ain't woke like me.
They ain't woke.
I'm the woke gamer. Rob Zachney at Waypoint.
They ain't spoke. They ain't woke.
Bad.
Hey.
I don't know if there's... how do we not talk about the saddest moment in the entire... Well, I don't know about the saddest, but the most heartwarming and the moment that made me cry, which is... No, screw the baby. It's Vincent swimming after Walt.
That made you cry?
Yes!
Aww.
That gets me every single time. I love dogs.
I love dogs,
I don't
too,
love Dog. Kate's dog. But I like Vincent.
Yeah.
That moment is amazing. And Walt giving Vincent to Shannon.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
How good is that?
That was very good.
Oh, man.
It didn't make me cry. What made me cry was Charlie, handing Aaron off to Claire.
That was good.
And, I guess for me, it's just... which I didn't realize I had, just those maternal instincts of what it would be like to be reunited with my child.
Oh, yeah.
And for Claire, I think she blames herself constantly. Her baby being on this island for wanting to get rid of him, for this and for that. And so she blames herself when Rousseau takes the baby from her, she should have done something different.
Yeah, Rousseau overpowers her and beats her in the back of the head, and she still blames herself. We need to talk about, before we stop, the insane moment where Charlie gets a gash on his head from one of Rousseau's traps.
Oh, yes.
And Saeed's like, "You need to go back." He's like, "No." Saeed's like, "You need a doctor." Charlie says, "You were a soldier. What would a soldier do?" He pours gunpowder in his wound and lights it on fire to cauterize it. Holy
crap. I was like, oh, he's going to put gunpowder in the wound to stop the bleeding? And then he got the matches out. And I was like, no, he is not going to do that.
The first time I watched it, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, gunpowder stops wounds, huh? And then I was like, oh, I see.
I was like, that's the most terrible thing to have happen to you.
This show is pretty willing to get brutal. Charlie's scream was not like, owie.
No, it was like, ah!
It was blood-curdling.
It really was.
Oh, man.
You could tell it really hurt.
I apologize, because earlier in the episode I said that I didn't remember at what point in the show Charlie got that Virgin Mary statue. It was in this episode. Just so much happened.
Yes,
yeah.
It was in this episode.
Because him and Sayid are going after Rousseau. Yeah.
Right, and they come across the plane.
Right.
And Charlie asks Sayid, is this where Boone fell?
Yeah.
And then so Sayid explains to him what and who was in that plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, in the spirit of bringing everything full circle, confronting Charlie with his worst fears, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fantastic episode. Is there any doubt that this is a banquet?
No.
I wish we could film this, because my favorite thing that you do is, like Blofeld in Spectre, you take 20 minutes leaning up to the microphone and then say one word. It's the best. It's so funny. This is a great episode.
This is definitely a banquet.
Yeah.
This is a banquet in my book because not only does it answer some mysteries, but it then continues the mysteries in a very clever, creative, unconventional way. Which is exactly what this show is.
I don't think anybody going into the... I mean, I guess I can ask you, because you hadn't seen the show before. Did you see the Fisher boat thing coming? Did you expect them to see a boat and for them to,
I thought that when they started picking something up on the radar, it was something not good.
Yeah, you immediately said, this is not good.
But I thought that it was going to be something more significant, not some rickety old fish boat with 4, essentially homeless people.
Yeah.
Wanting to kidnap Walt.
You're so much less trusting of the show than me. Because I know when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, they actually found a boat. And I remember desperately wanting the little dot to come back. And I thought, oh my god, they're going to just do the flare too late, and then they're not going to get saved, and they're going to be out a flare, and they're going to be a moment later where they see another boat, they don't have a flare, and no.
Yeah. I don't know. I just didn't think it was going to be good. So I was just waiting for the moment where Lost is very good at trying to win your trust and then dashing it to pieces. So
that is true.
I just don't give Lost my trust.
Yeah. I guess I don't know why I'm chastising you for not trusting Lost, because that's what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
So I just had a feeling the moment they set sail, even though I wanted to be like, yeah, when the victorious music was playing when they launched the raft, and you're really, really rooting for them, but I was rooting for them, but I just knew 5 other seasons of being on the island, so I just don't foresee them making it off.
But that had to be one of the strongest pieces of music that we've heard from Michael Giacchino so far, though.
Good.
Astonishing.
It really does invoke in you such hope and inspiration that you want them to be victorious.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think that even when I first watched it, I cared about this raft storyline at all. I was like, they're not going to build a raft. They're not going to get off the island. I don't care about this. But when they launch that raft, you start getting teary-eyed. You're like, oh my god, they built a raft. They're going to make it. Yeah. Michael Giacchino's like, they might make it, guys. They just might make it. And because it feels like such a final moment, it feels like this is the last time you're going to see all these people together. Which it might be. We don't know what happens in this next episode.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody dies.
Maybe. I don't think anybody dies the rest of the show.
Interesting.
Anybody that we ever see from here on out lives.
You mean there's no Black Plague in the hatch, baby?
Hey, so I'll get a prediction question from you.
Yeah?
So Boone died this season.
Yes.
Do you think that they'll kill off a major character in season 2?
I mean, their whole... I don't know. I really don't know. I want to say yes.
Who would you want killed off? Or who would you like... What would devastate you if this character was killed off? Who would you hate to see leave?
If somebody died and it would devastate me, I think it would be...
We kind of love everybody at this point.
Yeah, but I think I love somebody a little bit more than others.
Mm-hmm.
I would be devastated to either see Charlie or Hurley.
I was going to say Hurley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I think would be the most devastating one.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. We're about to sit down and watch season 2.
Oh my god!
Or not
guys!
the entire season, although I don't know.
No, we have to have self-control.
It's been hard to have self-control. This podcast is actually the only thing giving us self-control.
Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that for the next 6 weeks,
we would only be doing this.
Yes.
Oh, I know. Because that's what I did when I first encountered the show. It was every waking moment of my day.
Yep.
As long as I could stay awake, I was watching this show.
I mean, we stayed up way past our bedtime Saturday and Sunday for that matter.
Oh my god, we stayed
because
up
we were
so
watching this show.
Couldn't stop. And that's
Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. This is the sign of a great show, is that I've seen the show several times, and still, you get so sucked into it, and you have to see what happens next.
You do.
Yeah. Also, what's great is if you wait a couple of years between rewatches, you genuinely forget some things, and then it's like you don't remember how things happen or when things happen.
That does make
exciting.
a difference. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So don't rewatch shows every year. Wait a few years. That's the principle here, right?
No, because I think I probably do rewatch this about every year. But, anyway, this has been...
just have the memory of Jim.
I'm going to quick fire some spoilers in this. So stick around, but if this is it for you, if you're departing on a crazy fisher boat at this point...
You'll be departing with me.
Oh, wait. Quick prediction question.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on? Do you think Walt, is dead? Is Walt, taken back home? Is he taken off of the show?
No.
Okay. You think we're going to see Walt again?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a reason why Walt's on the island.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he's special, but he is, to the point where the others want him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think this will be the last of seeing Walt, but I think it may be a minute before we see him because the Islanders won't know where to begin their search of Walt.
Yeah, where would you begin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. So, follow us, or follow me on Twitter at Jacob Kreitz.
Follow us.
I mean, it's the family Twitter account.
Yes.
JACOBCRITE. Yes. We're one flesh, we're one Twitter.
Yes.
Birds of a feather, tweet together. Email us, most importantly, at anotherlostpodcast@gmail.com. Rate and review us on iTunes. Tell your friends about the show. Spread the word. Go door to door for all I care.
Evangelize us.
Evangelize! Proselytize! Form churches.
I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Alright, stay tuned for spoilers. Those who are rewatching. Bye!
Bye, guys!
Welcome to the spoiler section of Lost and Found. If you have not seen the entire series, don't listen any further. This is for people who have seen every episode of Lost, including the finale, so if you continue listening, you will be very bummed out, because I'm going to talk about specific things that happen in the finale. And this week, I wanted to touch on a couple subjects, mainly the way the show is written from here on out. This is a significant time in the show. The gap between Season 1 and Season 2 is where the mythology of the show was really set in stone. There were a lot of vague concepts that they had. There were ideas for things like the Dharma Initiative, or the concept that all these Islanders have been pulled to the island for some greater game of good versus evil. But all of these things, from the potential of flash forwards to the Oceanic Six, none of those things were set in stone until this writer's mini-camp that happened between Seasons 1 and 2. So I want to get into that. But first, I had a spoiler note/question about Exodus. One of the things I've been trying to track is whether or not the character arcs are satisfying, and whether or not the mythological information we receive is generally consistent throughout the show. And I found what at first I thought might be an inconsistency in this episode. and you can let me know if you agree, but I also have a defense of it, which is Hurley. Hurley, of course, ends up becoming the island protector, and all of our castaways, especially the Oceanic Six, were always meant to be on that island. They were never supposed to leave the island. So it was kind of jarring rewatch and seeing this comical scene where everything in Hurley's life is seemingly trying to prevent him from getting on Oceanic Flight 815. From the power going out in his hotel room to the car breaking down, everything happening. It could just be that it's played to be funny, for dramatic irony, but it certainly seems like the intent of the scene at that time is to say Hurley was not meant to get on the island. The universe was trying to stop him and he made it there anyway. Whether or not that was the intention of this scene, I think it still holds up with what we end up learning from Eloise Hawking in Season 3 about course correction. Maybe the intent of this scene at the time was to try to suggest that Hurley, against all odds, made it to the island when perhaps the universe was trying to stop him, or the island was trying to stop him, however you want to put it. But I generally think that this works well with the notion of course correction. No matter what happened, Hurley was always supposed to get on that island. So, whether or not the power went out in his hotel room, whether or not he got a flat tire, whether or not the entire airport had to be evacuated, whether or not he... But let me know how you feel about that by sending an email to anotherlostpodcast@gmail.com. And speaking of which, we got a really cool email.
This letter wasn't written to you. You wrote this letter.
I had brought up a couple episodes ago that I thought that the continuity of the Tales section worked really well. I wasn't sure at the time if they had specifically planned out this entire arc of the Tales section and all that, but if they didn't, I would have been really surprised because it worked really well, and we got a really great detailed email from listener Stephen, or Stefan, who detailed that incredible, 20-minute long NPR reading I did. But anyway, he wrote an insightful email about this, which says, "Heyo, Jake. I just listened to the latest podcast, and in the spoiler section, you talked about the setup of the Tales section, that you think they were going to play that card eventually. You don't have to just think that, because that's actually a fact. It was originally the idea of Jeffrey Lieber, who was hired to write a script at first. He wanted a couple on their honeymoon being separated by the crash to then reunite them at some point by the end of Season 1 or early Season 2. Because reunions are fun. The idea was to have the wife in the main cast from the beginning and her husband then joining them. After he was fired, Abrams and Lindelof came in to start over, but they took some of Lieber's ideas. One was the Tale section situation, and they intended to do the same thing with Kate being the wife and her husband Rob being in the Tale section. He was supposed to have a wedding ring for her because her fingers would swell on a plane, and the idea was to have Kate fall in love with one of the survivors and drama ensuing when her husband appears. Love triangle and stuff. But then Kate was rewritten as the criminal, we know, but the idea was kept, and even though the circumstances changed a bit, we still got a couple on their honeymoon with Rose and Bernard. And it was Bernard who had to take off his wedding ring because they would swell on the plane. So the reunion of Rose and Bernard was 33 episodes in the making, and even though things changed along the way, of course, because you can't plan everything on TV, but it was something they wanted to do from the very beginning, or very early on. When they ripped the plane apart, they deliberately even left the tail section behind, because they knew they weren't going to use it in the pilot, and wouldn't see it for at least a while. I got the script and outlines and all that to prove it. Black on white. Facts. Smiley face. Well, that is insane and wonderful. I wish that he would have sent me the script. That'd be nice to read. But that's really great. Not a lot is known, as far as I know, about Jeffrey Lieber's script. It's pretty ambiguous as to what was in it at all. The only thing that I know of that's been talked about by Damon is that the crash happened, and then there was a hard cut to, 30 days later or a year later or whatever, where people had settled into life on the island. But that's really great, Steven/Stefan. Thank you for emailing that. And that gets into what was planned for Season 2. Season 2 is interesting in that by the time we get to Season 2, the only original Season 1 Lost writer who was there from the beginning was Javier Grillo-Marxuach, whose name I rarely get right. He was there from the beginning, but in the back 12 of Season 1, the writers were changed, and then when Season 2 started, they were changed up again, to the point where he was really the only remaining of the original writers. And it would seem that there would be, with all these new writers, some big tonal shift in the show, but obviously if you've seen the show before, that's really not true. In fact, the authorial voice just gets stronger. You can feel Carlton and Damon's creative force really sinking in. And that was kind of an issue for some of the writers, particularly Grillo-Marxuach, who wrote in his essay, The Lost Will and Testament, that there was a distinct change in the approach to writing the show. When they were starting in Season 1, they really were just throwing ideas out there and trying to see what stuck. Notoriously, the wheelchair reveal in Walkabout was a total last-minute addition. They had drafted the entire script without that reveal, and Damon came in at the last second and had a cool idea, what if we did this? And once all the mythology had been pretty definitively planned out, there was no longer room for that kind of experimentation. The writers were put into teams, weren't given as much beginning-to-end control of their scripts. They had to be written pretty well in advance so that Damon and Carlton could review them. They would often make huge changes, come back with story arcs that hadn't been planned that they suddenly wanted to implement into the show, which makes sense. It's their show, their creative voice maintains strong throughout all 6 seasons, but it's kind of interesting to me that a lot of people, and I would argue the same people that feel that the show was making it up as it went along and it just totally lost the thread, a lot of those people feel that Season 1 is the only truly great season of Lost. I don't agree with that, but I hear that. But the irony of that is that Season 1 of Lost was the season where they really were making it up as they went along. Season 2 onward, they had a pretty definitive plan. They had to improvise, but they stuck pretty closely to their plan. And yet, because they weren't throwing things against the wall and weren't making it up as they went along, it kind of caused the writers to grow a little bit disillusioned with the process of writing Lost. So it's just kind of interesting how things all work out. Among the details that were defined in this minicamp between seasons 1 and 2 was the Dharma Initiative. The Dharma Initiative was originally going to be called the Medusa Corporation, and in between seasons 1 and 2, it was changed to Dharma. During the season 1 finale, in fact, there were advertisements aired as Easter eggs for the Hanzo Corporation, the connection between James Ford's Sawyer that he's obsessed with and Locke's father. That connection was made. One thing that's interesting, though, is that according to Javier Grillo-Marxuach, there was not any mention in all of Season 2, Jacob and the Man in Black. That those characters were not personified. Those ideas existed. The idea that these islanders were called to the island for a grander purpose, that was there, but they hadn't codified it, they hadn't personified these two sides of good and evil, quote-unquote. So, that was all I really had to say. This episode, as we talked about in the main section, is remarkable in how it would have worked as a series finale. They were clearly trying to wrap up everything, and it really works to the season's advantage, and the writers of Lost always compare each season to a book, like a Harry Potter book, where, yes, each one is connected, and it's part of a grander design, but each season is also its own story, and I feel like Season 1 defined what Lost would be by having a distinct structure, following that structure, occasionally playing with it, and then ending it on a really definitively satisfying, climactic note. That was all I had. If you have any sort of theories, complaints, concerns, please email them to anotherlostpodcast@gmail.com. Please rate and review us. It would really help us out. There are now, all of a sudden, several more podcasts named Lost and Found that have popped up, which is super inconvenient. So